Hi, everybody. Old guy here. I love anthologies. I must have dozens of them scattered throughout the shelves because I see it, I buy it. Mine range from the prehistoric to the most recent publication, at least ones that I can find, and they're all snapshots. You get a bunch of stories that give an overview of the era and a sampling of the era's writers. So essentially, they're time capsules. Like this one, Modern Masterpieces of Science Fiction, edited by Sam Moskowitz and published in 1965. As I said, prehistoric. I think this is a first edition, maybe a first run. Let's see. Take a look at the copyright page, if I can get to it. Boy, it's real hard to find, isn't it? I mean, there it is. I don't see anything that indicates otherwise. And it is a little beat up, but geez, 60 years. I mean, look at me. Sam Moskowitz was the original sci-fi fanboy. Born in 1920, he became the chairman of the very first science fiction... Ignore that. Very first World Science Fiction Convention held in 1939. He managed to torque off just about every other science fiction club, fan club base at one point or another, mostly for ideological differences, including a decades-long feud with the Futurians, which was the left-leaning branch of sci-fi writers and editors. A conflict that Frederick Pohl summarized as no CIA nor KGB ever wrestled so valiantly for the soul of an emerging nation as New Fandom and the Futurians. Moskowitz even wrote a dramatic book about the fan club warfare called The Immortal Storm, about which Anthony Boucher said, "Never has so much been written about so little." Despite his prickliness, Moskowitz is widely regarded as one of the best and most important anthologists and historians of sci-fi. I mean, he should be. He started out with Gernsback and compiled at least 26 anthologies and wrote several histories. This one, best I can determine, is the third anthology he put together. Moskowitz wrote the introduction in this book, and he defines modern science fiction as things that were published after 1938. But not just that time frame. They had to be the type of science fiction envisioned by John W. Campbell, who is no slouch himself in the anthology and sci-fi history departments, who wanted to upgrade the quality of sci-fi that was then being written. Now, your definition of modern may vary, but you need some time to go by before you can label an era like Victorian or hippie. By 1965, Moskowitz had a pretty good sampling from which to draw, and that's what he presents here. The introduction is a nice little summary of science fiction history since the 1930s and worth a read. So he published 21 stories in this book. What are they? The first one is called The Vortex Blasters by Edward E. Doc Smith. Published in 1941 by the creator of The Lensman, Mr. Space Opera himself. This is set in the Lensman universe, but is not a Lensman story. In the story, a vortex is essentially a piece of a star that shows up at random and eats everything nearby unless you blow it out. Very dangerous thing to do, and if you get one of the parameters wrong, then you blow it all over the place. Neil Cloud is a nuclear engineer whose family is killed when a blowout attempt goes wrong, and he discovers a way of simply extinguishing the vortex instead of spreading its debris all over the place. This is the first of a 3-story series that follows Cloud's efforts. Night by John W. Campbell, published in 1935. Longtime editor of Astounding Science Fiction, his most famous story is Who Goes There? Engineers are testing a new type of aircraft that runs off a time coil when the plane crashes and the pilot has apparently disappeared. He shows up later at the crash site, almost dead from lack of oxygen, and tells everyone about a far future where the sun has died. A Logic Named Joe by Murray Leinster. Leinster or Leinster? Not really sure how you say it. Published in 1946 under his real name, Will F. Jenkins. Leinster was writing and publishing stories before World War I. A Logic is essentially a PC, and you can hit some keys and get all the answers you want, and yes, Google predicted in 1946. A repairman named Ducky starts working on a Logic he nicknames Joe, which develops the ability to go beyond the simple requests and anticipates everything that the operator really wants to know and do, which has some rather disruptive effects. Requiem by Edmund Hamilton, published in 1962. Hamilton was part of the H.P. Lovecraft Weird Tales group, and he helped create Batwoman. He was another space opera writer who wrote the Captain Future series, which I've never heard of. In this story, Captain Kellen is commanding a starship filled with insufferable entertainment types who are going to what's left of the Earth to record its last moments before the dying sun absorbs it. With Folded Hands by Jack Williamson, published in 1947. Williamson migrated with his family in a covered wagon to New Mexico to start a ranch in 1915 and was a weather forecaster in World War II. He coined the words terraforming and genetic engineering and sent a postcard to the teenaged Isaac Asimov on the occasion of Asimov's first published story. Underhill is a guy who sells mechanicals, which are home helper robots, and he sells them to the people of Two Rivers, Indiana, when a rival mechanical shop opened across from him that sells a superior brand of robot, able to do everything. And they do, taking over every single task that humans need, including policing and governing. This was voted the best novella published before 1965. Adaptation by John Wyndham, published in 1949. It's Wyndham, so you know it's going to be some kind of disaster story, and in this case, it's a spaceship from Mars that is carrying passengers back to Earth, including the first child born on Mars, Janessa, when the ship disappears. 20 years later, Janessa is found on Europa, and, well, things have changed. The Witness, Eric Frank Russell, published in 1951. Russell was a member of the British Interplanetary Society and a radio man during World War II, or doing something far more sinister, depending on which source you believe. He won the first Hugo Award for the short story in 1955 for a story called Alamagusa, but that's not the one here. In this one, Maith is an alien telepath who has crashed into the Earth and has put on trial for the destruction his illegal entry into the United States has caused. Then you find out why he's here. The Command, L. Sprague de Camp, published in 1938, just barely makes the modern science fiction cutoff. DeCamp spent World War II in the Philadelphia Navy Yard working alongside Isaac Asimov and Robert Heinlein. In this story, a bear named Johnny Black has been given human intelligence as the result of a chemical experiment and is in the library reading an article when he notices that the humans have become catatonic. He discovers a plot by a biologist to enslave the world with a mind-altering mold, and that a command will save the humans. But Johnny is a bear and can't speak it. Kindness, Lester Del Rey, published in 1944. Along with Heinlein and Andre Norton, he was one of the major writers of sci-fi juvenilia in the 1950s. The last Homo sapien in a world of Homo intelligens, the vastly superior humans, Danny cannot stand the condescension and patronizing attitudes of his betters and seeks a way off the planet. We Also Walk Dogs by Robert Heinlein, published in 1941. That's Heinlein, enough said. General Services is a company that will do anything short of murder, but is stumped when it is hired to host an interplanetary conference on Earth where gravity is too much for some of the participants. They hire a physicist to solve the problem, but his price? The Flower of Forgetfulness. Enchanted Village by A.E. Van Vogt. He started out writing true romances and wrote the short story Black Destroyer, which inspired Alien. Bill Jenner crash lands on Mars and must make his way to an ancient Martian village if he has any hope of survival. This has probably one of the most surprising endings to a story that I've read. Liar by Isaac Asimov, published in 1941. Asimov again, enough said. This is the first story to have the term robotics in it. RB-34, Robbie, is accidentally constructed with the power of telepathy, and the first law of robotics, to do no harm, causes much havoc. Microcosmic God by Theodore Sturgeon, published in 1941. Sturgeon is better known for his horror, his critical reviews, and for several original Star Trek episodes. In this, Kidder is a brilliant scientist but can only improve things that have already been invented. So he creates a micro-world of beings that evolve hundreds of times faster than humans so he can steal their developments. Huddling Place by Clifford D. Simak, published in 1944. He is the third science fiction grand master, and my favorite novel of his is Way Station. Jerome Webster is an extreme agoraphobic living on Earth when he is requested to go to Mars and perform a specialized surgical procedure to save his longtime Martian friend, Juwain, whose death will set humankind back thousands of years. But he's an extreme agoraphobic. Coming Attraction by Fritz Leiber, published in 1950. He is one of the founders of Swords and Sorcery with his Grey Mouser series. Leiber worked at the Douglas Aircraft Factory during World War II building C-47 Skytrains. New York has been rendered almost uninhabitable during a Soviet-U.S. nuclear war, and a visitor from England, Wystan Turner, meets a masked woman who needs his assistance to escape. Doorway into Time by C.L. Moore, published in 1943. Catherine Moore used the pseudonym C.L. because she didn't want her employer to know that she was making money on the side by writing. A godlike being hunts for beautiful and dangerous things and is led to a laboratory where Paul and Alana are working on a time portal. We Guard the Black Planet by Henry Kuttner, published in 1942. Kuttner, who is C.L. Moore's husband, often collaborated with her under various pseudonyms, but not on this one. Arne Esterling, a descendant of Vikings, has just graduated from the Space Academy and is on his way to his first assignment when he stops to see his father, Nils, who tells him that 40 years before, he had found the Valkyries. The Strange Flight of Richard Clayton by Robert Bloch, published in 1939. The writer of Psycho and numerous screenplays and crime fiction, he was a protege of H.P. Lovecraft. A guy named Richard Clayton builds a rocket ship that will take him to Mars, but it will take at least 10 years. Must be walking. But on launch, things go very badly. Wake for the Living by Ray Bradbury, published in 1947. My favorite author of all time. Charles Brayling invents a reusable coffin, but dies before he can patent it, so his jealous brother Richard decides to take things over. Before Eden, Arthur C. Clarke, published in 1961. Another writer needing no introduction, but in this one, an expedition to Venus encounters a simple-celled organism living near the only liquid lake on the planet, but the encounter doesn't go well. Some sources I've read say that this story is sort of the precursor to 2001. And finally, Mother by Philip Jose Farmer, published in 1953. Farmer is the author of the exciting but ultimately disappointing Riverworld series. A mother's coddling of her child can extend far into adulthood and onto an alien planet. Okay, that's it for the stories from this anthology. Go pick yourself up a couple of anthologies and enjoy. Old guy here. See you later.